So to have a break from knitting, I thought I would do some paper folding and make some flowers. And these are a very simple flower, okay? So you can make it this size, okay? So one flower, right? And they're 5 petals. So you make 5 petals and then you glue them together. They're glued on the stick and I have a button. So basically that's the simple flower. Then that's made with a paper which is 6 inches by 6 inches. Okay, so that's the origami paper stack, 6 inches by 6 inches. Okay, and these are easily bought. You can buy them in any craft shop. They're 6 inches by 6 inches. The smaller flower, okay, right, was a lot more fiddly than the bigger one. Okay, so it was a lot more fiddly to make, but it's really only a quarter. So I cut the 6 inches by 6 inches, so it's 3 inches by 3 inches. Okay, and you get 4 pieces. Okay, so that's that size of flower. Okay, but they're actually quite cute and you can put a button on them. I didn't put this one on a stick because this one I'm going to turn into a paper globe, a flower globe. So this is the flower globe. Okay, so there you go. This is 12 of those little flowers, 12 of those little flowers, and they're just glued together, 6 in the top, 6 in the bottom. When you get half of them glued, you glue in your string, right? I've just happened to have this nice gold string, but you glue in your string and there it is, ready to hang. So if you make the flowers, glue on the buttons or the beads or whatever you're going to use before you actually put them together as a ball, because it just makes it an awful lot easier. Okay, so that's what that small one. And then if you use the bigger paper, the 6 inches by 6 inches, you end up with this size, which is a lovely, it's about a 9-inch, 9 inches in height, and it's actually a lovely size, and I think it'd be lovely at Christmas, hung round if they were made in nice Christmas colours. Okay, so it's basically the same as the small one, only it's the 6 inches by 6 inches. This one's half the size. Okay, and there's my little flower. Okay, the other thing you can make them out of, okay, well, for a start, I didn't make this one here and the big one, right? We're made out of, right, I went to the local charity shop and the lady was throwing out these calendars, okay? Basically, the lady was throwing out a pile of these calendars and she said, would they be any good to you? Would they be any good to you? And I thought, yeah, throwing them out. So when you opened them up, they had quite nice scenes on them. There's different ones, okay? So quite nice scenes about that size. And what I did to get it to the 6 inches by 6 inches basically is I cut it into 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then that made that size of a ball. Okay, so it's roughly 6 inches by 6 inches. All right, made that size of a ball. You can also make them with Post-its. So these are just, you know, the Post-it stickers. I don't know if people use Post-it stickers nowadays. And instead of having buttons on these ones, I had some beads that I glued in, right? So again, glue the beads in before, but these are just the Post-its, you know, you buy. I had some sitting on my desk. I thought they're just the perfect size. So they're a bit smaller. They're slightly smaller. Okay, but they still look very nice, and these ones look quite summery. And again, you can make them in nice Christmas colours. This one here was made from one of these paper stacks. You know, 6 cents. It wasn't made from this one. It was made from one that's actually a heavier paper, but similar thing. 6 inches by 6 inches, and I cut it in 4, so I ended up with a smaller one. Okay, it's quite nice. Okay, and these ones here, thought, right, okay, I started going mad, making everything into flowers. These are actually, you know, the container, I haven't finished it. I thought only 2 came out of the packet from the tea bags, and I had trouble with the glue because the glue didn't stick in the shiny paper, but with sellotape, and if there was 12 of those glued together at Christmas time with nice shiny paper, I think they would look quite nice. So anyway, basically what you do is you make, this is a petal, and you make 5 petals and you glue them together, okay? So all you really need is a square of paper. I use some of these clips. I use some of these clips, you know, you can buy them, they're very cheap. They're actually for sewing, but they're very handy. I use a Pritt stick, okay, and I haven't got one handy, but a Pritt stick. So I'll just show you how I made it. I'll use a purple sheet, so 6 inches by 6 inches, all right, or waste paper. But this is an origami sheet. Is that dark enough? It might be better with a darker color, so it is easier to see. Let's go with the orange. Okay. So this is orange. This is my mother was a card maker, so to be honest, I haven't bought any of these. These are been lying around my house for years. Anyway, so there's my sheet. All right, now you've got your square, okay? You've got your square, right? Can you see that? So the first thing you do is you fold it as in a triangle. Okay, so that's the first step. You fold it in a triangle. Now what I did when I got it into my triangle shape is I actually trimmed it. If there's any, you know, if you look, I've just slightly over, but anyway, if there's any bits that you need to trim, but basically it's a triangle, right? So then you take, say we call this point 1, point 2, point 3, okay? So you take point 2 up to point 1. Okay, so there you go, point 2 up to point 1. Point 3 up to point 1. So basically what you do on one side, you do on the other side, okay? And the neater you can get these lined up, the neater the flower will be. Obviously, it does take a wee bit of practice, okay? So that's the first step. Your triangle, point 1 and point 2 is folded up to the top. Now, next thing is we're going to work on this side first, right? I'm going to bring this straight edge down to this straight edge. There we go, this straight edge down to this straight edge. All right, and then you do the same over here, this straight edge to this straight edge. So you end up with a sort of, you know. Now, what I tend to do, you can put a little bit of glue in your triangle in there, okay? But I find that if you use these clips, it just holds everything while you're working with it, okay? So got it that far. So the next point is I'm going to move my clip, all right? Because I haven't glued it, I'm going to move my clip to in there, right? And in there. And there's a reason for that. It's for when you do the next part, quite often this will move if you don't clip it or put a little bit of glue in between the triangle layers. But I found that clipping it was good. So you open up your one side. Remember what you do one side, you do the other. You put your finger in and you make it like a little kite. All right, now I can take that out because I'm in place, okay? Make it like a little kite, okay? Then you fold that little kite over and you fold in the side. Okay, so that's the next, and then I clipped it just to keep it in place, okay? So then you're going to work on the other side, exactly the same thing. I'm going to put my finger into the layers and I'm gonna clip it, make it into a little kite and fold it across. Right, it's not 100% straight, okay, but not to worry. And then you're going to fold it across, and then I'm going to clip it. Right, so now I've got my piece, and as you see, I don't know if you can see, but there's a bit of white there. That would have been trimmed off earlier if I had my scissors handy. Right, so that's basically it. Right, that's basically what I've got there, and all you do is you get a Pritt stick, or you can get double-sided tape or any sort of glue you want. I found a Pritt stick worked about the best, and you're going to tape to make your petal. You're going to tape it closed. Now you're better if you can get it straight at the top. So some of mine, because you see that one isn't straight, I sort of trimmed them a little. But once you put your Pritt stick in those 2 layers, okay, so that's your 2 layers. Once you put your Pritt stick in, I actually used 3 clips then to hold them closed while it was gluing, and then I could do the next one. Okay, so once I got my 5 ready, I would put a little bit of Pritt stick down there, and then I glue it to there. All right, I put a clip in just to hold it all. Then my next one, a bit of Pritt stick down there and there. Okay, and then I hold it all. Okay, so that's 3 on. Okay, and 4. It's not glued. 4. So a bit of Pritt stick, and then that's glued onto that one. So that's 4. And then when you get to number 5, all right, you put Pritt stick down both sides, because it has to glue to 2 petals. So Pritt stick there one side, and then Pritt stick the other side. I suppose I should call it a glue stick and not a Pritt stick, but anyway, that's what I used. I found the Pritt stick actually. Some of the cheaper ones weren't too bad. The Tesco's one and things wasn't too bad, but definitely the Pritt stick ones were the best. So basically, once they're all glued, there you've got your flower. And then if you have those clips on it while it's sticking, then when you take the clips off, you'll end up with your flower. You can glue on at that point either a stick if you want just one single flower, or a button or a bead. And I used actually a glue gun to do that, because I thought it was the best. So if you're going to make a flower ball, you make 12 of those, and then 6 in the bottom, 6 in the top. So anyway, that's my flower ball. So all these clips are handy, but not necessary, but I found them very handy. I had Marola, and I bought this for another project, and then it wasn't useful for what I wanted, so it's been lying in my box. But it was actually very nice for these. Okay, so that's my string that goes in between. And then, because I give the charity shop where the lady gave me the calendars for free, okay, which worked out really good, I thought, yeah, I'm going to have a go, because she's got them up. She's got some of these smaller ones. She's got, oh, I don't know whether I can get this even on. Oh, stand up, okay. So basically, I went a bit mad. And I ended up with this one, which is a full calendar sheet. So it like 12 inches by 12 inches. I put actually a circle of card under my button, because actually the buttons weren't big enough, but if you had something a bit prettier maybe. So 12 inches by 12 inches makes you, and really when I was putting them together, I could have really done with an extra pair of hands, so a friend helping me, but anyway, they're glued together, and this ball works out about 20 inches by 20 inches, which is far too big. But I suppose if you had a nice big conservatory that you're going to decorate for Christmas, and big 20-inch ball and some of those smaller ones, it actually looks quite stunning. Okay, so that's my paper folding.